Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome Energetic Life Now, friends and family from around the world. So glad you're able to join us today, whether this is your first time or you're catching a replay. Thank you so much for being here and spending time with us today. I just wanted to welcome you on the Spanish World and Her Networks, which is on Zingo TV, channel 250 and 251. And please remember, when you download the Zingo TV on your respective iOS and Android devices, please leave us a like, comment, share. We'd love to hear from you. Of course, the app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV Sticks, Roku sticks, and on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So, hey, listen, friends and fam, what's good? What's happening? What's going on around the world? I am so excited to welcome to the show today my dear friend and sister-in-law. Yay, let's cheer it up for Holly. Holly is a licensed family and I'm going to say this
Professional
wrong.
counselor. I'm a
Professional counselor. Yes, I knew I was going to say it wrong. I had the block already there in my brain, and of course it went there. So I'm going to default to let you sharing your background and good fun about you. But let's give a big hand to Holly. Welcome her to the Energetic Life Now show. Woo! Holly, tell us a little bit about your fabulous self.
Eric, thank you for having me today. I wondered if you were going to put in the piece about our personal connection. So I haven't brought too much shame to the family, so that's good. I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Oregon in the U.S. And I have been in business in private practice for almost 30 years now. I work a lot with adults. I used to work with kids a ton in the beginning of my career. And now I work mostly with adults, and I work a lot in the area of relationship counseling. So that's kind of my jam, that and midlife things for women. So anyway, I am excited to talk with you today and to get to share some of our shared interests.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Holly, for sharing that and being here today. Listen, friends and family, yes, as she alluded, there's a story behind the story with Holly here. So let's just dive in, because I know the audience is dying to know a little bit about the history. So I married one of Holly's sisters, and how this connection all came about. And so I have known Holly now 28, probably 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And we've had many adventures together and good times and great fun. Yeah. And love that. Holly has been a great mentor for me also within this space, because when I have things that I'm in questioning about, I will turn to Holly and get her feedback. And so it's a great collaboration. So I was just excited for you to be here on the show, because, really looking at my area of expertise being in as a teen and parent and family success coaching, and you've got your licensed coaching and the practice pieces that you have. There's a lot of crossover that we see. There's a lot of things that come into playing into both sides of that, if you will. Yeah. And I kind of wanted just to spend some time talking about, what are kind of some commonalities that we see as you're working with adults, and then the commonalities and the crossover that we see working with kids. Because I really would love for us to be able to bring some awareness to the stage for this today, to say, listen, if this is going on in the home, and then we see this happening with kids, and where that is coming together as results of, let's kind of dive into that. So tell us a little bit, Holly, of just some of the commonalities that you see in the clients that you serve.
Well, I think that, and steer me directly if I go the wrong direction on this, but I think, you will see with people that are feeling challenged, whether they're adults or children, you'll see some pretty big behavior changes.
Mm-hmm.
And things that used to look one way might quickly look a different way. So somebody might be performing really well at work and then not so well, or at school and then not so well. So that's
Mm-hmm.
some things you'd be watching for: big emotional swings with moods, or a big change in appetite, or a big change in sleep patterns, or whether somebody's interested or not interested in participating in their normal activities or their social life. You might see like anger problems. You might see some big increase in risk-taking behavior.
Sure.
I think all of these things are major signs that something's going on that needs to be addressed, whether they're big people or little people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love how you just closed that out, saying this is not just happening with kids. This is happening with big people as well, right?
Yeah.
And we know that, right? Life is challenging. Life is stressful. I mean, just look around. I mean, we got a million gazillion things happening right now, and things are super stressful. I think we're still feeling the effects of being at home for a few years, and still people transitioning back into the workplace, or really trying to fight to stay home and work, because that has become that level, or that area of safety and comfort, whether you're big people or little people, students, same thing, right?
Yeah.
Getting into those spaces. um,
Yeah, and can I just
yeah,
insert something here? I mean, I think
please.
that's a really good point, Eric. I think a lot of people with the pandemic lost their social skills. They lost their
Mhm,
comfort at being in social settings, and
mhm,
transitioning back to being a full-time, at work or full-time at school, when you're used to kind of having more control in a smaller world, is a
right.
big deal. And I
Mhm,
know for me, even going from, not really leaving my house much to beginning to do things normally, like go to the grocery store and, participate in whatever church or whatever
yeah,
kinds of outside activities you do, caused a lot of like anxiety. I wasn't
mhm,
used to being around that level of input, and I was uncomfortable with my own skills at just kind of reintegrating and having things feel normal. They did not feel normal for a long time. And I think there are a lot of people still struggling with that.
yeah. You know what, Holly? Honestly, thank you. I totally agree with that. I think people still get into situations of which grocery stores, or malls, or shopping, or crowds, of which all of a sudden this feeling of anxiety starts happening, and the uncomfortableness of being in that situation, and then it's like, whoa, I can't do this.
Right.
And then I need to backtrack out of there and go back into maybe a safer environment for me.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So we talk about with the kids, teens, and from a parent perspective. I know I am speaking from this area of my three kids, and you
Mhm.
might be coming from the area of your two kids,
Mhm.
of looking at some of these signs, and really parents and around the world, as you're listening to this today, um, and maybe you're seeing some signs that, and I know for me, I was oblivious to, until they started making sense. Like, oh, that's why this is happening, or that's why this behavior is showing up. And for instance, like, becoming, inclusive, if you will, to my bedroom or to my house, and not wanting to leave.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm antisocial. It's not that I don't like people. I just found that comfort in this space.
Yeah.
And so when parents come to me, I know this happens all the time. They're like, listen, my kid won't leave the room. My kid won't do this. My kid won't do that. And I have a conversation with them like, well, have you asked them why? have you begun to ask them what is keeping them in that room? What is
Yeah.
keeping them or prohibiting them from coming out of that room? And just sit down with your kids and begin to allow that expression of the feelings and the thoughts that they're having. Because I know for me as a parent, I want to understand that rather than saying, you got to come out of your room and do this, you got to
Yeah.
do that, you got to do this. Blah, blah, blah. Can you speak a little bit about what you've been experiencing with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point that having conversations with your child is important. It's not just like our duty as a parent is to teach our kids to be a certain way and to inform them about why they should do things a certain way. I think asking them how they feel and being curious about their experience and validating their emotions and helping them talk through something is a really important skill that we have as, hopefully have as parents, and that we can teach our kids.
Right.
Emotion regulation is something we learn from the adults in our lives. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't have an adult that's good at regulating their own emotions, they're not going to be able to help their child regulate emotion. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
and having those kinds of conversations and talking about emotion and talking about vulnerable feelings is a way that we as parents can model for our children, expressing those things, asking for support, feeling safe in talking about things that are frightening or threatening to us. And it's a way that we learn to regulate our own brains.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was so beautifully said. As you're saying that, I'm reflecting on me. I mean, I don't know, Holly. You might know me, maybe you don't know me, but I can be a bit of an emotional person, huh? I
Yeah, I
mean,
like
right?
that about you, Eric.
I wear it right out there on the sleeves, right? It is there for the world to see. So I say that because if you, listeners out there, are in that space of which you are a very outspoken, emotional person, and that's what's being modeled, I can tell you in the past, I was the parent like, what's the matter with you? Are you kidding me? Just do this. Grab this, do this. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Do this. Blah, 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 blah. What are you talking about? This isn't a big deal. Blah, blah, blah. Right. And that would send my kids into orbit, right?
Yeah.
Emotionally. And then they would just go inside and totally clam up. So, obviously I don't do that anymore. And I've learned in having these conversations and why they're so important is to understand how each one of my three kids are so vastly different.
Mhm.
And what are the triggers that show up for each one of them in what they're thinking or what they're feeling? And at any given point in time, I have conditioned or wired myself to recognize those.
Yeah, that's
And then
good.
what I'm doing then is helping them to understand when those triggers happen, how to recognize it in themselves.
And how to talk about it and how to then begin to regulate those things and normalize them and to recognize when they might be at risk for
Mhm.
those triggers moving forward. It's like the more language we have as parents about our kids' worlds and the more conversation we have with them, the better equipped they are to have those conversations with other people in their worlds,
Mhm.
and to
Mhm.
be able to set limits and boundaries in those relationships that are healthy, and to also recognize that, if they feel safe with me, then they know what safety feels like. And when
Yeah.
they're not feeling safe in another relationship, they can go, oh, this doesn't feel good. And I know the difference because I know how it is to be with my parent.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. So we
Oh,
just teach them so much
yeah.
by just listening and being available and being reflective and being empathetic.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, the boy that is just so true and so key, Holly. What you were saying, and for me, I've got to slow myself down enough to really listen to them in here and not go in here,
Right.
right? So you're talking about the empathy piece. I've got to come from here in the empathy to recognize and stop myself to say something's not right. How can I best support them right now?
Right. Yes. And I think you're right. It's like we've got to get out of our own way. And, as parents, so often the way we engage with our kids is with frustration or irritation around they're not fast enough, we're going to be late, they haven't done something that they're supposed to do. And our irritation and exasperation and impatience shows up. And then
Mhm.
what they hear is a judgment rather than how you're feeling, which is the honest thing. Like, this is really hard for me when we are supposed to be somewhere and we're late, and I'm feeling really anxious right now. And that's why I might have lost my temper and said that thing to you. And I'm really sorry for doing that.
Mhm.
So that they begin to understand that explaining your internal world is part of having a healthy relationship. Because when somebody cares about that, they care about the why behind, why you do what you do, right?
Mhm.
So getting out of our heads and being in our bodies and communicating our own vulnerable feelings and really identifying within our kids what's going on for them emotionally is just, a way that we can support their healthy relationship skill development.
That was fantastic, and thank you for that. I, as you're saying that, I'm of course I'm reflecting uh, in my own mistakes. Okay, right?
Of
Because
course.
that is the best way for me to learn is to reflect on what I've done and how I'm doing better now. And so as you're saying, that I'm going back to the way I was, years ago, of
Mhm.
which it was regimented with my kids and boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, let's go, get in the car, do this, get that, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And I realized over the course of time that was not healthy and not an effective way to parent. And because I was doing that, it contributed to my kids feeling anxious and for them not wanting to go and do then, and took the joy and sucked the joy out of what it is that they were going to be going and doing. And
Yeah.
so, what I learned to do over that course of time is, like you just said, showing up and saying, listen, I'm recognizing right now that I am anxious about being late, right?
Yeah.
Because it was conditioned in me that you don't show up at 9 o'clock, you show up at 8:50.
Right.
Because if you're early, you're not going to be late, and if you show up on time, that's showing up late. Because that was conditioned to me as a kid.
To mean respect, to mean.
Yes.
Mhm.
All of that, right? Sure. And then so now I go into how does it look, sound, and feel like to you? And what is going to work for you in your timetable to show up at 9 o'clock? What does that look like for you? And specifically, as the kids, getting ready for school or going off to their jobs or to sports and things of that nature, they began to outline the best ways for them to prepare,
Right.
to get ready, and then go and show up.
Mhm.
And that worked out so much better because it wasn't me dictating and directing them. It was them taking the ownership for doing the things that I was being so regimented on, but
Yeah.
now they were in control and in ownership of it.
And they were learning the skills they needed to get themselves organized to get out the door. I
Yeah.
mean, if we tell our kids, you got to do this, 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 and this, and every time they have that instruction, they're not using their brain to learn how to get ready to go, right?
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, you also said something else, Eric, that I want to comment on. It's like, we all make mistakes. I have a degree in psychology and I made all kinds of mistakes with my kids. And I know it looking back, I can see, oh, I wish I could have done this differently or that differently. It's just part of being human. Like, we
Yeah.
are human
hmm
and
hmm
we will have bad days. And the most important thing we can do is acknowledge our mistakes and
Yeah.
say, I'm really sorry.
hmm
I
hmm
know that my impatience or me losing my temper was really not called for. And I had to make you feel this way. And I'm really sorry for doing that. And I'm going to try to do it better. And really, like, the key is to try to do it better. You know, it's not okay. It's not enough to just apologize. And it's not, an apology is not, you know, I'm really sorry I yelled at you, but you were making me angry because you were late. An apology is, you know, I really lost it. I lost my temper when we were late getting to that appointment, and I yelled at you, and I shouldn't have yelled at you, and I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's taking responsibility.
How often I talk with parents and with the kids, and what is modeled is the apology, which is followed by the but, which completely negates the apology of what was just said, and so it goes right out the window. And now the whole conversation is focused on attacking the other person and their character and the lecture of what they did wrong and why that was so significant. So parents, listen, this right there, that was such a huge gold nugget that I hope that you guys take away from this right here, in that don't get sucked into using those words like and, however, but, you know, don't say the but word, you know, because that,
or
that
you made me. You
made me, right? No, nobody made you. Nobody made you. You did that all on your own, kid. Good job, right? Yeah. So don't get into those traps. And I want to go back, because you said something that was really key a minute ago that my master coach has taught me as well. And she says, once you know better, do better.
Yeah.
So you and I both can go back through the course of time and say, listen, this is where I had hangups as a parent. This is where I made those mistakes. And there were those defining moments of which we realized that it was not effective parenting. It was not going to help get the best results. And then we changed and we did better from that point on. Yeah. Like you said, doesn't mean we're perfect, but we're going to keep trying to be the very best that we can be. And
until the day we die.
Until the day we die. And we're still going to make mistakes along the way, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's flip the coin here a little bit and go into some parental things. And when we're talking about relationships, right? Because those stressors in parent relationships, partner relationships, whatever it is at the adult level, when those relationships become strained, and what the kids are hearing and seeing in the home, or once homes get split and different things of that nature, and the impact that begins to cascade down to them. Yeah. Let's go into that space, because I know we're going to have a lot to talk about here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, studies, there have been studies that show that kids ages 7 to 14 with divorced parents are 16% more likely to have mental health issues. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, that's a big number.
It's a big number. And there are definitely ages where divorce is more impactful than others. Like around the age of 11 is one of the hardest times for a child when their parents divorce. And I think it's because at 11, the developing brain is so self-focused that they can't really understand anybody else's point of view. They're more about, you know, what's happening to me and what did I do, or how am I part of this, than they are about, you know, my parents aren't getting along and we're all going to be happier at some point down the road. So I think that, you know, kids struggle with divorce regardless of their age, but definitely more so around that age of 11. And I think some things to watch for are, you know, giving them too much responsibility at home, you know, because when I know for me, when I went through divorce, my son was in high school, and it was really challenging, you know, suddenly to manage a house all on your own, you know, when you've had two parents and an intact family. So, you know, I think that my son felt more responsibility around the house, but he also felt a lot of responsibility for me, you know, because he's an empathetic kid and he knew that I was struggling emotionally. And I think it caused him a lot of stress and anxiety. And a lot of kids feel guilty about their parents splitting. They might think that it's their fault in some way, like because maybe they heard their parents fighting over something that the kid did or whatever, and they internalize that and think I'm the reason that my parents are splitting up. And so for a kid to go through, to be living in the home while you're going through a divorce.
Yeah, wow. I tell you what, there's a lot there within that, you know, for adults to be really aware of. And I know there's a story that you're familiar with too of somebody that we know that said when she was going through a divorce, they made sure that whenever there was an argument and did things like that in their marriage, that they went off and did that in private, so it wasn't in front of their kids. And I never really understood, you know, the impact of that until I think it was probably over the last number of years as I've really gotten into, you know, this space. And what a gift that was that she gave her children. They gave their children to not have those knockdown, drag out fights. And whether or not the kids knew it was happening, probably did, because kids are so smart.
Right.
But really to understand, you know, what you're doing as the adults in the house, how it has such a big impact on the kids. And I know that we hear some of these horror stories because of the, you know, what we do for our work, of which the household is in complete chaos.
Right.
And the kids are so upset, you know, and the parents are so, you know, into, you know, the fighting and all of that they completely forget the impact that it's having on the kids.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's really important, if you are separated or going through a divorce, to keep in mind that your kids' experience is going to be different than yours. And your kid probably is feeling lonely and is missing the other parent. And they need both parents. I mean, even if you think the other parent is not a good parent, your child still wants a connection with that person. And you need to honor that and respect it. And I think also it's really important to avoid putting your kids in the middle, you know, and ways that parents do that are they do things like quiz their kid about what happened while you were at dad's house or mom's house, or is there somebody else that was there, or, you know, all those sorts of things. And it makes a kid feel stuck. Like, if I say what really happened, I'm going to get my mom or dad into trouble with the other parent. And I think the other thing they do is compete. You know, it's like, I can have a better time with the kids. I can take them to do more exciting things, or I can spend more money on them, or I want to have my own birthday party and you can have a birthday party for the kid, but, you know, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it up big. And again, the kid feels stuck in the middle. And I think that's really damaging for the children.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yeah. The times of which the parents really are causing the most damage, I think, is during that time. Because like you said, here we are where there's arguing and there's fighting within the home. That is damaging enough. Once you get into that space of separation and the divorce process, and you have the posturing for the kids' acceptance, love, and I want all that for me to eliminate the other person, to cause emotional detachment from that other person. And when they come to my house, I've got no rules. It's a total big party. The kids can do whatever they want, stay up all night, eat this, do that, blah, blah, blah. And then they go back to this parent's house where it's more structured and safe, in that regard. Man, I've worked with so many people in that, and it's so sad. And I've actually had kids tell me, well, Eric, this person grabs my cell phone and texts, the other parent through my cell phone because they've been cut off from that communique line. And I'm like, oh my word, that is so damaging, because this kid, how can they say no? Or I pay your cell phone bill, give me your phone. And so you're using the kids as pawns in this game that you're playing, that you know what? I'm going to tell you frankly, parents, the damage that's being done here is going to last a lifetime for that kid.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kids should not be privy to adult information. They should not hear conversations about the other adult's behavior that led to the divorce. You should not be telling your children that your spouse has had an affair, or that they were drinking and driving, or that they are doing something illegal, or that they are to blame. You should not be having those conversations with your children. Now, certainly if there's a safety risk, you might need to educate your child about how to evaluate for safety. But you can do that without throwing the other parent under the bus.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when it comes down to safety, for sure. Right. But I love how you were going into, trying to shield the kids for a given time. There might be time down the road of which conversation have, okay, mom, listen, I'm this age now and I really want to know what happened. And that might be a more appropriate time when the maturity level is there and so forth. But especially as you're talking about when these are kids. And you're going through the statistics. You said at age 11, the higher risk of things that are happening, causing anxiety and stress and all of that. I want to be able to protect my kids as best I can. Right. Listen, and it doesn't even have to be in the space of divorce. Right. I could be that person that is so ingrained into the news that's all I talk about. And I can do the same exact and have the same exact response reactivities coming from behaviors and things from my kids, because they're listening to all of this nonsense that I'm spewing out, even though I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. So when you're thinking about the impact that we as adults are having with our kids, friends and family around the world, we're getting into some really, really heartfelt spaces today intentionally, because we know, Holly and I know of the places that we've been in our lives of which we are now better and doing better. And so that we can offer this guidance to you, because we don't want you to have to look back and say, boy, I really messed up big here. And how do I fix this?
Yeah. So some other things you can do as a parent if you are going through a separation or divorce and you want to support your children. Can we go there?
Please. Yeah.
You can spend quality time with them. You can make an effort to put your phone down, turn the TV off, and really spend quality time with your child, engaging, asking questions, participating in their life and their interests. And you can be open and honest without making up stories. So, if they've got a parent that didn't show up for their scheduled visitation, you don't need to make up a story about it. You can say, I'm really sorry
Yeah.
that the other parent isn't here. How are you feeling about it? And ask them questions and support without having to make it okay or make up, your dad's always insensitive and this is an example of it, right?
Sure.
You want to help the child to talk about their own feelings about it. And you can remind them that they're loved, that they are
Mhm.
loved by you, and that you're not going anywhere. And I think that's really an important piece is that kids often with divorce feel lonely and they
Mhm.
feel like they're unloved and unseen. Because I know
Right.
for me, when I was in the middle of my divorce, I was kind of a basket case. Like I
Mhm.
really was struggling to just get through the day with work and doing my household stuff. And I think I was pretty preoccupied. And I think that my son living in the house with me probably felt a lot of that. As much as I tried to hide it
Mhm.
from him, I
Sure.
think he was pretty in tune. And
Sure.
so I also think that it's really important to let them know that they can talk about their feelings and they can share with you the things that are going on in their life. And, you need to, as a parent, listen without a lot of reaction.
Mhm.
Like, it's not about you, right? If the child is feeling really hurt or really angry or really upset about something, you don't need to add to it, beat yourself up, or ask them for reassurance about being a good enough parent or any of that. It's not
Right.
about you. It's
Right.
like if a child says, "I'm really unhappy right now," or however they're gonna say that, they're probably not gonna say it that way, but, "It sucks living here with just
Yeah.
you. You're all you do is make me work and talk on your phone," or whatever. Like, you need to be able to say, "Wow, I'm really glad you told me that. I need to
Mhm.
think about this and I need to make some changes,"
Yeah.
right? Rather than getting defensive or rationalizing it or explaining it away. It's like you need to listen. You need to
Mhm.
listen and let them know that their feelings are welcome.
Yeah.
And I think that this is like, think of it as boot camp for healthy relationships. Your
Mhm.
kids need to learn how to have healthy relationships. And that is the most important job you will do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that, Holly. The modeling is the number one thing, as Holly was saying that we can do is to pause ourselves long enough to show our interest and model that disconnect from whatever it is that we got going on
Mhm.
at that moment
Mhm.
to say, gosh, it sounds like something's going on
Yeah.
with what they're saying, and I'm going to put some undivided attention into them.
Yeah.
And I know for me in these situations of which I have coached families in the past on, sometimes this shows up for them in the space of um, we're sharing custody of the children and they're with me and then they're going over here and this is not a structured environment. It's not as safe as it is at here. I know when they go over there, there's going to be a bunch of nonsense that happens and manipulation and different things of that nature.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and I'm sure you can attest to this too. Is bringing up ahead of time. How are you feeling? Are you getting everything ready? Do you have any concerns about this weekend or this week?
Mhm. Mhm.
How are you feeling about
Mhm.
it beforehand? And
Mhm.
allowing, like you're saying, allowing that expression of, hey, I'm good with it, I'm okay with it, or I'm so, or this is the worst thing. Why do we
Mhm.
have to go there? And kind of going that route with them, and then keeping it in the space of their thoughts and feelings matter, right? And I'm coming in from that path of empathy with them. And then I know in specifically a family that I worked with, it was in the return back of which there was all kinds of behavior
Mhm. Yeah.
disruption, anger,
Yeah.
screaming,
Right.
yelling, to the point where
Calm.
this kid would take his mom and throw her up against the wall because he was so mad and angry that he had to go there and deal with that. And the mom had no choice. It
No.
was a court appointed, rights for that other person to have access to those kids. So let's talk about that for a minute, Holly, because that was some really, really tough times for those kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that kids often express their big emotions in a place that they feel safe doing that. And
Mhm.
so, if you are the safe parent that allows your child to have emotional expression without losing your own cool,
Yeah.
your kids might be showing more of that in your house because
Mhm.
it's a place that they can let out some of those feelings that need to come out in an environment that feels safe.
Right.
And they're probably on their best behavior if you have an ex-partner that is explosive or manipulative or out of control in some way. The child knows that it's not a safe environment for them to throw those kinds of fits.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so it's really hard. It's hard to remember that as the parent that's on the receiving end, but important to remember that your kid's behavior is going to be worse with you if you're the
Right.
safe parent.
Right. And I love that you said that. And I was hoping you were going to go there because, right, knowing that it's not about me, like
Mhm.
allow those feelings to be there and validate them and know
Yeah.
that I am that safe space. That should be really in my head that I should feel honored that
Yes.
they're expressing themselves enough like this and can do so with me and we have that trust and we have that comfort, we have that openness, and that is a safe place for them. And I should feel completely honored that they get they get to do that. And I also think too is I know we're talking a lot about the spaces of separation and divorce, but when you're looking at the age ranges of kids, you can have an older kid that is involved in some very, very dangerous self-harm activities that
Mhm.
they're bringing into the home, that the entire family unit now is a part of,
Yep.
and that those types of really high emotion, panic feelings, anxiety, parents not sure what to do, how to handle the
Yeah.
situations, and all that emotion now as the same trickling down to every member of the family. And now you
Yep.
have other siblings, younger siblings acting out, some that
Mhm.
are just, secluding themselves to bedrooms, not
Mhm.
coming out for fear that they're going to see and hear things that are going on.
Yep.
That's really scary too.
Yes. I think that that's a common dynamic that, if a kid gets into trouble and is the older sibling, that the younger siblings do feel the
Mhm.
anxiety and fear around what happens. And obviously there's going to be conflict with parents and school and all of those sorts of things too that those younger kids are watching.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for parents in that situation to just give their younger children an opportunity to talk about
Mhm.
how they feel and
Mhm.
about what they need or how you can protect them better from some of the fallout of these situations and give them a sense of control in their environment.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was so key, a sense of control in their environment. If they understand really what those controllable variables are, and you can have that conversation, well, what can you control? So if Holly's my daughter and I'm saying, Holly, well, here's what you can't control, but Holly, tell me what you can't control. Well, I can
Mhm,
control this and have you list them out so they
mhm,
understand. if
mhm,
if Holly now has that list of her controllables,
mhm.
she can operate within that
Yeah,
until she has that comfort level go up and trust within herself and confidence within herself, that then she can try to take on a little bit more as
right.
she feels she's ready to do so.
That's good. And I think too, by having that conversation, you as a parent can give them permission to take care of themselves and encourage that. So if a child is hearing, for instance, a lot of fighting around behavior between
Yeah.
parents and another kid, maybe you problem solve with them that they could stick their headphones on during those fights, and they could knock on the neighbor's door and hang out with their friend, or they could, it's like there are lots of options, and they should
Absolutely.
feel like they have some amount of control over how they experience those dynamics.
Yeah. Oh, that is so key. Parents and family, I hope you guys picked up on those little things that you can have those conversations with your kids. Like, hey, if you're feeling this here, these are some things that you can do, or ask them, what do you want to do? Yeah, do you want to put in your headphones, your earbuds, and kind of drown out that and listen to your music, or do a different activity of which you can not have to listen to or be involved in that. And in hindsight, Holly, I know that there's this one family that I've worked with, and in hindsight, after years of going through this type of behaviors with their oldest child, the conversations are happening now of what happened in the past. So to heal those traumatic events and experiences, because in that moment, the parents were so just, I'm in survival mode. Everybody's in fight and flight, right? And so after the fact, now they're recognizing, okay, here's what we were feeling. And the kids are going, oh my gosh, I thought I was alone in feeling that. No, we were right there with you. But we were just so caught up in the stress and the trauma that we weren't able to have those conversations around that. And now we're going back and healing that trauma that happened in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we always have opportunity to heal the past. And that's the beauty of this. Like, I think that no matter how much therapy we've done, or how much reading we've done, or how much enlightenment we've had by watching stuff like this, we still are going to have things that are kind of unfinished business with us, that are related to our, attachment style, or our histories with our own parents, or our personalities. And, we can always make changes, and we can always heal.
I love that. I love that voice of hope. There's always there's always time to heal, but you got to get into it.
Yeah.
Right? By ignoring it and letting it go and letting it go and letting it go, we definitely can't do that. So I'm going to encourage our listeners that if you're in a situation of which it's things that happened in the past, take what Holly and I have been talking about on this episode and try to begin working through that, and begin to uncover and discover some of those things of which happened in the past, and begin to release that stored negative energy, that stored trauma that is associated, those stored triggers that when it happens, those feelings come back up again, and begin to kind of work through that together as a family. If you're currently in it and you need support, please, by all means, reach out to us. Holly, would you mind just sharing with us a little bit about how we can get a hold of you?
Sure. Website that is www.graceuntethered.com. It's a mouthful. On my website, I have coaching and available packages for that. I also have a bunch of free resources, including a lot of blogs about divorce and healing from divorce, and links to downloadable things that you can check out. And I really encourage people to sign up for my weekly email that I send, that is about mental health related things. Sometimes it's about relationships, and sometimes it's about just being healthy and developing yourself. And so that's something that's a resource that's out there that that I put out there for free, and I hope people take advantage of it.
Yeah, and it's a great newsletter. Thank you, Holly, so much.
Mm-hmm.
Friends and family around the world, you know how to get a hold of me, Energetic Life Now, on social media. I'm always here to uphold and support you any way, shape that I can. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Just a reminder, this can be also heard on the Spanish Radio Network. Please check it out at SpanglishWorld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Thanks you guys so much. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Eric.